I've asked for the recording. So we are now recording. I assume everybody's okay with that. And I assume everybody has changed, either turned their video off or changed their name, and we're going forward. All right. So for those of you who are new to Zoom, we're going to go into Canvas. And so down at the bottom, there's a share button. I'm going to click on that. And I will have all the screens that I have active show up right now. And so I'm going to go into Chrome. So I click on my Chrome icon and click on share. All right, and I've picked on Kathy enough. Let's scroll up and find someone else. Hi, Jeff Olson, how are you doing? All right, let me get my, there we are. I've got that. Let me put my chat up. As well. Sean, you're asking me, will we all get account numbers? And I have no idea what that's talking about. Like if that's, is that a Zoom account you're talking about? You would need to contact Beth Cummings in IT. So you can send it to IT or specifically to Beth. For those of you who are new to Zoom, or what I get a lot of emails is, hey, I'm doing Zoom and it cuts me off after 40 minutes. That means that you have the free basic version. So please contact IT, specifically Beth Cummings, and she will get you upgraded to a more quality license, which will allow you to go longer, unlimited basically, and also gives you the ability, for example, to gives you some extra controls in the class and gives you the ability to record it and archive it, okay? So having said that, I think we're all in here. I don't see anything in the chat room other than Sean's and a whole bunch of hi and cheers and hellos. So we've got that. So I think we are ready to go. I'm going to pause for 30 seconds or so. If someone has a question before we leap into Canvas, now's your chance to type it in. Something about Zoom. Otherwise, we're going to get started in Canvas. Okay, and I don't see any questions. Just a reminder, we're now at 1:36. I think I made this announcement like at 1:30, and I see we've had a few people who popped in. If you could please make sure you turn your chat on and specifically type in your name or a hello or something in there in the chat. We're saving the chat, and that will be your proof of attendance. So please just type in a hello or something like that. All right, now I'm actually getting the questions. Johnny Jump, is Canvas HIPAA compliant? No, it is not. Talk to IT on that. There are ways in order to make it HIPAA compliant, but by default, it is not, okay? Let's see, what was the other question? Why do some of my courses not have a Zoom link? If you're ever missing a link, let's show you guys that. So everybody's been in Canvas, I assume. Down at the bottom, you have that settings icon, or sorry, settings link. Oops, actually, sorry, I'm in my admin. So you guys have never actually seen this because it's the Bates College one. So let me go into a course. And where's my practice course? Here we are. So if you go into your course, down at the bottom, click settings. And we're actually going to talk about this probably about 5 minutes, so let's talk about it now. So you have your course details, which probably all of you have seen. It has the basic information here. I want to draw your attention to this box. This was probably the single most common question that we get. Oops, sorry, phone's ringing. And that is, how do I change the date? So a very common thing, you know, someone is teaching and for some reason either it's normally scheduled that way or something happens in their class and they have to extend the class by a couple of days. You know, it's a real common thing. My class is supposed to end Friday. We're running a little late. I need to extend it through Monday or Wednesday of next week or something like that. Real simple. You type in a start date. You do have to type in both, even if you're only changing one. Canvas gets very confused if you only put in one date. So put in the start date of the course. Put in this case, the new end date of the course. Let's say it's June 13th now. And here's the key that people forget. I hope everybody sees this box right here. In fact, let me just make my screen a little bigger. There. Everyone sees that box that says students can only participate in the course between these dates. Please click that. Otherwise, you've wasted your time by entering those dates. This now creates, you basically, this is the only time you can ever override Bates. You just overrode our term settings and you made new term settings for yourself. As always, at the bottom, go down and click on Save, Update, whatever you're looking for, and that gets you there, okay? All right, over on the side, you've got some other links. The most common one that we really want you guys to be aware of is Student View. Student View means you get to see the course exactly as your students see it. So you can say, you can look and see if your modules are published right, if they have access to a test. Now, anything that I click on, I don't have the ability to cheat because I'm an instructor and see stuff that's hidden. I've got to navigate through my course the exact way that a student does. So here I see my modules, I see my assignments, I can see my grades. Notice, by the way, I don't see the grade book because I'm not a teacher. I see grades for a test student. So this is the student grades. All right. Excuse me. And then when I'm done looking around my class and experimenting, I just click on Leave Student View, and then I'm back to being an instructor again. So that is, and let me get back to the front page, that's one of the most important buttons there, okay, is clicking on that student view to look on it. Peter just asked a good question. No, I don't believe there is a student view in the Canvas app because it's not really designed for that. It's not designed, the Canvas app for teachers is not designed to build a course, it's designed to monitor your course. So it has basic functions like post an announcement, modify things, grade things, but the ability to get in and actually build it and look at it, they deliberately didn't put that in Canvas because they want you to do that in a web interface. Okay, so here's my student view. Let's see, we're back in settings. Okay, so we've got, by the way, you guys won't have this. You guys will not have a delete this course button. You've got copy this course. This is another one. We're not going to walk everyone through this, but click on import. And this is where, for those of you who are trying to import from, let's say, fall into winter, this is where you would do it from. Since we've only got 90 minutes, we're not going to go through a lot of stuff step by step. What we'll do is, if there's something that we cover that you don't know how to do, post a message in chat. Like in this case, put in import content, please, or import content step by step video, something like that. And Colin is actually on the side taking notes as we do this. And we'll make this available to you, give you a walkthrough, and show you how to do some of these things, okay? The other thing in settings that we just talked about is navigation. And so I've had some people talk about they don't have Zoom, they don't have Panopto. It should be in here, but it isn't. So up here, this top section is all the things that are available in your class, available to students. And down here are all the things that are disabled for various reasons. Maybe it's something that you don't use. Maybe it's something that is specific to another course, but it's all down here. Some of the stuff that you see down here, things that I don't want my students touching, like I don't give them things like files and pages because I built a course and I want them to go through it by modules rather than going in and just trying to get to a quiz or trying to get to a page. So you'll see the stuff down here that's disabled. Let's actually, since someone asked about Zoom, I can click on it and disable it. And then if you found it down here, we just go down here and click on enable, okay? And then once you're done, this is really frustrating because it pops you back here when you think you're done. Scroll back down and click on save. And now I should have Zoom off to the side. Okay, so that's settings. Again, I'm going to pause for 30 seconds. Does anyone have any questions or comments about settings? Because that's kind of how you get your course dialed in that way. I will point out that we sent you that great big giant honkin' email today. I hope you appreciated it. I apologize if you said, good heavens, Tim, this thing is 40 pages long. I appreciate that, but we wanted to give you guys an email with everything there. And one of the things that was in there was actually a handout that walks you through your setting page, showing you what every single thing is. Okay, so that's available to you. All right, and I don't see any questions posted. Oh, how do you Zoom multiple courses? You don't, if you're integrated. So let's talk about that real quick. Um, if you're using the link for Zoom inside this course, it is sent out to every single person in your course, and you have no control over that. So that's how you would do it. Everyone in the course gets it. You can't do it to more than one course, and you can't do it to half of your course. If you want to do anything specialized, it's very easy. You just go to the Zoom page. So you would go to zoom.us, go to the Zoom web page, log in there, and create a meeting that way. That gives you the ability to share it. So let me click on here, zoom.us. And then if you went into here and created a meeting, then you would just copy and paste the link in here, so you could email it out to people in 3 courses at once. You could do anything like that, put it in a calendar, put in announcements, anything like that. The only thing that I would mention on that is you now have potential FERPA violations. So if you're going to send it out to multiple classes at once, please talk to us beforehand, because the fact that someone's a student at Bates is directory information and not a FERPA violation. The fact that somebody's in Math 101 sharing that out would be a FERPA violation, okay? Okay. Yeah. All right, so here's our homepage. I know we've got people who are experts or semi-experts, and we've got people whose grand total of experience on Canvas is like 5 hours. So we're gonna kind of walk through stuff and try and find a good pace for everybody. Again, my apologies if I go too fast or too slow. Please kind of say something in the chat or let me know if you've got additional questions. But what we wanna do is kind of walk you through the basics. So what I'm going to do is very quickly log out. The reason I'm doing this is you'd be amazed how many calls we get and how many emails I'll bet you've already gotten about, hey, I can't log in. So when someone wants to log in, first of all, they should be on this page. This seems super obvious. They've gone to Bates and clicked on Canvas. But again, you'd be surprised how many people just Google Canvas, and when we ask them what page they're on a completely different page. So if you get an email from someone saying, I can't log in, ask them if they're on the Bates page. It should be blue. There should be a Bates logo on it. And ignore what mine says, because I've got an older login, but for all of your students, they should be entering their Bates ID number in the top and bottom box, and the ID and the password. So they log in, and it should take them or you to your dashboard. All right. A couple of things about the dashboard. You can drag and drop on here. So if you've got a bunch of cards like I do, okay, so this practice course is what I'm working on today. So I'm going to drag this up into my first slot. Okay. Other things that you can do on this dashboard, in addition to moving stuff around, is if you click on these 3 dots here, is you can change the color. If you're super anal retentive, you can Google hex codes and really dial in the color. You can also change the name. So for those of you who have super, super ugly names, you know, it's DENT 130 and then an item number and then the term. And by the time you get to the name of the course, no one can see it. You can just click in here and call it, I'm going to call this Canvas Demo. Okay, and I'm going to change my color. Well, it looks like every other color is taken, but oh well. And there we are. So you and your students can do that. Now here is something I noticed very few students do. I would really encourage you to tell your students about this. Peter just made note of it, and it's true. This works really good for you because you might have 5, 10, 20 different tiles. Up on the top here where you see 3 dots, click here, and again, it's going to be almost useless for you, but encourage your students to click here and click on list view. So we're going to switch from card view to list view. And the reason you probably want your students to be in this is Canvas, or Instructure, who owns Canvas, Instructure said, what information do you guys want when you log in? And the obvious answer that everybody said was A, I want to know what my grades are, and B, I want to know what's due. Okay? And so all that information is right here. Now, unfortunately, this is a pretty lousy screen because I'm not a student. So you don't see, for example, any graded stuff, which is why most faculty stay in the card view. But for your students, like if this was an assignment, I would see my grade of a 93%. I would see comments from my instructor. I would see what stuff is coming up due later this week. So we really do recommend for students that they click here and again, change from list view to, or sorry, change from card view to list view. And then if they don't like and want to change back, they can just click back and change on card view. Okay. So again, I'm going to hit the pause button since everyone's muted. Any questions on kind of getting in, getting your students in, getting to the dashboard, arranging your dashboard, anything before we go into an actual class and start a round? All right. And I see no questions. I don't know if that means everybody with this thing has been brilliant and everybody has all their questions answered. I don't know if it means everyone's fallen asleep, or I don't know if it means that somebody is typing a 6-paragraph long question and hasn't hit enter yet. But I'm going to assume it's because we're doing good in the class. So let's go into a class and walk you through a class. So let me find my play class. Okay. And so we have two navigations off to the left. Over on this side is what's called your global toolbar. You have this at all times. It's things like how to get back to your dashboard. I frequently get the question, hey, I can't find my class. It's not in my dashboard. The easiest thing to do is just click on courses and then all courses. And you get a complete list of all your courses, present and past and future. Okay, so that's where that is. You also have a calendar and you also have your inbox for sending mail. Okay, so that's there. And then on this left-hand side, you have all of the tools for Canvas. So the most common thing is home to get started. And then in here, you have all these links. I assume you guys see these eyes right here with the line through it. That means that these things are hidden from the students. So what you'll see is your students will see about half of these links that we have here. It can be hidden for two reasons. Number one, it can be hidden because you hid it. I hide outcomes because we're not using outcomes in this class, or conferences, or collaborations. I also hid, as I said previously, discussions and files and pages because I don't want my students ending up there. I want them working through the module because that's the way that I set the course. And then also, you might see an I next to it, a grayed out like announcements. And the reason that is simply because there aren't any announcements. As soon as I post an announcement in this class, that link will become active. Okay, so that's, and again, the reason these aren't there, if you remember back to going back into settings and navigation, we move stuff up and down on that list. That's why some of this stuff is hidden and some isn't. But we're on our home page. And so, let's talk about syllabus and then get into the modules. So I click on the syllabus, and as you notice, I don't have a syllabus. If I click on edit, I have my syllabus page. I get questions quite frequently. Should I put it in there? Should I make it a document? Should I make it a Google Doc? What do I recommend? And the answer is, I don't care. And I don't mean that to be rude. What I mean is whatever works for you. There isn't necessarily a best practice. Some people like to put their syllabus on that page so they know their students see it. They don't have to worry about students downloading it. Some people like making it a file so that the students can download it and print it out very easily and view it. Some people put it to a Google Doc so they can edit it. It doesn't matter so long as you meet the basic standards of it's there, it's available to your students. And just to be clear, if you're doing something like posting to a link, it needs to be trackable so that in case it ever got to the point where a student said, hey, that wasn't in the syllabus, you could show, oh no, here's what the syllabus said, and it's been this way since the beginning of the quarter. I haven't gone in and actually deleted a paragraph or anything like that. Okay, so that's our syllabus. Any questions on syllabus? Good question. How about multiple syllabus for all classes in a program? The answer to that is that's between you and your dean and the instructional design department. That is a great question. You can do it, but that's more an issue of what happens if I've got three classes in the same course shell or something like that. So really, my job is to help you do that. Whether or not you're allowed to do that, that would be something to take up with your dean and say, hey, I'm going to run, truck driving 101, 102, 103, and 104 all through a truck driving Canvas shell. Is it okay if I do that? And they'd be the ones who kind of decide that. There are some issues about having a program syllabus versus a class syllabus, and about some other issues as far as documentation. So sorry, I'm going to punt on that one. But the answer to can you do it is yes. The answer to should you do it is talk to your dean. Okay, so we're into our course. Let's assume that we've posted a syllabus. Again, copy and paste, as Sean said, works great. I can type it in from scratch. I can put a link, but we've got a course syllabus in. Down at the bottom, by the way, be aware that anything with a date on it is going to show up here. Okay, so if you have an assignment, if you've got a quiz that has a date, that's why this will show up. It'll be at the bottom of your syllabus. Some teachers freak out because they see a big long list. Realize, and this is where that student view is really important, your syllabus and the student syllabus is different. Your course summary is going to show every single thing in your course. Your student syllabus is going to just show the things that are published. Okay, so a lot of times people go, oh my goodness, I've got 50 things in there and they're not available to my students. Don't worry, your students won't see that. They'll just see the things that have dates assigned to them and are published. Okay? All right, so let's get back to our home page. And what we want to do now is to show everybody how to build a module. I think that's kind of the basic building blocks for what am I going to do over the next, whatever we're talking about, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months, whatever it is. So modules are defined as a unit of knowledge. And what that means is simply it's an organized clump of what you're teaching. All right. So if you're teaching a specific thing, so let's say, let's go to Jeff again. Jeff is teaching safety, how not to accidentally stab a person with scissors. And that takes 3 days. That's a perfectly good module. Okay. If somebody else, I don't know who's in here. Let's say someone from Diesel is in here. Let's say their safety thing lasts 2 weeks long and is an entire class. That's a perfectly good thing as well. The most common module is obviously weeks. Not mandatory in any way, shape, or form, but a lot of people just go week 1, week 2, week 3. But in some way, shape, or form, you want to make this a logical organization of what it is you're trying to teach. So we click on modules. And I've actually got one module already there, but what we're going to do is create a new module. The nice thing is a lot of these steps are very similar. As soon as we do it for one, it'll make sense for all of them. So in order to create a new module, the button we're looking for almost all the time when we're creating stuff is that plus button. So this right here, plus or add module, would be what we look for. So we look for plus module. I give it a name. So since I already did mine as week 1, I'm going to put week 2. Again, other things are fine. Workplace safety, camshafts, balance sheets, so long as it's a basic unit that makes sense to you and to your students. So there you are. That's all that you need in order to create a module. Now, obviously there's nothing in it, but that placeholder is now there. Do notice, by the way, since there's no green dot here or green check like we see up here, it hasn't been published. That makes sense because there's nothing in it, but it does need to be published once we're done. Okay, so now we need to add things into our module. There's 2 ways to do it. If you have everything laid out perfect and ready to go, I actually did this yesterday in the welding program because they had a syllabus that was kind of walking through the weeks. You can just click on this plus button right here and just start adding to it. Like I'm going to add a page and then add the page, and then I'm going to add an assignment after that. And then after that, we're going to have a quiz. So you can go through that way. But the fact is most people don't do it that way because they're kind of making stuff up as they go along and figuring out what they want to do. So what we're going to do is build all of our stuff and then put it into the module. But again, if you want to build that second way and you have everything kind of laid out and organized, you can just go straight to this plus button and say, okay, I'm going to add an introduction page. I'm going to add a resource page. I'm going to add an assignment. I'm going to add a quiz, and you can just build it that way. All right, so the most common thing we do to get started are two things to build our module. The most common thing you guys are going to be providing are files and then a page. So let's start with files first. Again, over on this left-hand side, you see the files button. Right? And, oops, that's now blocking me. Here we are. If you've ever worked with a computer before and saved files, this should look really similar. So we can put stuff in here. I click on upload, and it does have to be in my computer, or sorry, in my Canvas in order to upload it. So let's just put a picture in here. And let's not put a W-2 in there. That's probably not a good thing to put in a public course. Oh, this is perfect. Here is a PowerPoint presentation. So we'll put that there too. Okay, and as you see, if it's not something like a great big giant high def picture or video, it loads pretty quickly. These are now here and they're in there. Let me actually put another picture in here. There we go. We have another one. Okay, so again, this should look very similar to Windows. As I start building these and putting them in here, I might get too many pictures and it starts crowding things. So it's simple enough. I just click on Add Folder and add a folder called Pictures. And then I can drag those pictures right into there. So again, just like Microsoft Word and you drag stuff into folders, I can create multiple folders, I can upload files, I can move them around, you know, so that makes it very easy to get stuff and organize it and find it very quickly. So that's the first thing a lot of you are going to want to do is get your PowerPoint presentations loaded up, get your schematics loaded up, get your pictures loaded up, get your documents, get your syllabus loaded up. So that's kind of the first step for everybody is to get your files into Canvas so you're ready to work with those. Okay, so again, here comes our pause button. Any questions about uploading files? Okay. Oh, do you delete the same way? Good question. Let's get back onto here. So here's my PDF. If you click here and I've got too many things going down here. Sorry. So if I click here, you'll see that I have download, alternative formats, rename if I want to change it. So it says something like whatever chapter one the title of that is, and the one that you're looking for would just be delete. So I could get rid of it that way. Okay. All right. Having said that, let's go into pages. So files will be the big thing most of you will use. The second big thing that you'll use are pages. So if I click on pages, it automatically takes me by default to my home page, and then I simply have to click on view all pages. And that gets me into a list of my pages. Okay, and once again, notice I said we're going to see the same thing again and again. So here we have add page. So I add a page, and now I can simply start creating my page. So let's say this is a thing about workplace safety, because that's a very common thing that people are dealing in the first week or two. Workplace safety. So I give it a title of workplace safety. I cannot type to save my life. I can hack out about 20 words a minute. So pretend that this actually says something important and relevant, okay? So today, this week, we're gonna talk about workplace safety. This is very important, blah, blah, blah. Don't lose a finger, blah, blah, blah. Please don't stab people in the barber shop with scissors, blah, blah. Combs are designed for that. So I've typed some stuff in. So that's the first thing that you can do with the page, and that's the simple and obvious thing, is I simply just type some text in, okay? In the same way that I would talk to my class, I can type information to my class. I assume everybody here has used Word, so we're familiar with most of these commands here. So for example, I can make it bold, I can make it larger, items like that, the same as it is with Word. All right, so we've got that. Now, what are some other things that I can do? Yeah, I don't know about the hearts. To be honest, I've never seen those. Is someone putting the hearts on? All right, so we'll leave those. Oh, so you're playing around with the button and now I have no idea what to do with it. Well, good, that makes two of us. All right, so what are some things that we can also do here? So we've got text. Another easy thing that we can do is we can just add a file here. So let's say you add a handout in here. We click on Files, and just click on what we want to embed there. So for example, right here, we've now embedded this PDF for chapter 1 into this page. So they have the text, they also have the PDF. Another couple of buttons that are important. Here's your embed image. So if you had a picture that you wanted to embed, you could click on here and embed a picture in here. And I think the other thing to show you guys would be to embed web content. Thank you, Roland. So the most common thing that you guys use are YouTube videos. So let's pull up a video real quick. So if you guys can go find it, let's say you find a great thing on, again, how to repair a camshaft, or how to balance a spreadsheet, something like that, how to create a border. If you find that video, down at the bottom, you should see a share link. So click on that and click on copy. By the way, one quick thing, if you're not aware of this, if you have a giant long video, let's say it's 20 minutes long and you want them to start watching at a different place, let's move up to here. Let's say this was where you wanted them to start. If you click on share, and then down here you have a start at. If I click on start at 3:38, when they click on the link, it will actually take them to the 3-minute 38-second mark. That's why down in your link it says T equals 218. Okay, so I have my link, I click on copy, and then I go back to Canvas. And what's great about Canvas is when I paste the link, and please hit enter, otherwise it doesn't recognize it yet, it now recognizes that link as a YouTube video. So you already notice it's put kind of a weird, funky square in there. And what happens is when I click on save, that video is embedded in this, or on this page. So your students don't have to go to YouTube and find it. It'll be right here on the page for them to see it. Okay. Sean, great question. Do YouTube videos need captioning? The answer is, of course, maybe, or it depends. If you go to a YouTube video, and let's look at this one here. Gosh, I hope these people know what they're doing. Click on the CC button. And notice what it says. It says English auto-generated. Okay, and the problem is, I think I sent this in for captioning last night around midnight, so the captions haven't been posted yet. And you can already see, narrate it, hi everybody, this is Canvas, so that's clearly not right. It's auto-generated, which means it does not meet standards for accessibility. First of all, it might be inaccurate. Also, you'll notice there's not punctuation as well. So anything that's auto-generated will not work. I'm going to do this live and hope that it works and hope we're not humiliated. So here's one I made ages ago. And notice, aha, there's no auto-generated when we click on the closed caption. So it says English default rather than saying English auto-generated. So that is the answer to does it need to be closed captioned is. If they're auto-generated, you need to add it. And if it's not auto-generated, you don't. Okay, got a couple other questions. Sean, the video messaging in the tools section, if you're talking about embedding it inside there, no, it's not, unless it's something that's going out to everybody. Then it probably should be. But honestly, especially this quarter, there's going to be a lot of grace on that point. Basically, anything that's published and kind of sent out to the class is supposed to be captioned. But basically, we're looking for the stuff like the YouTube videos and the big ones you do. If you have a YouTube video that is not captioned, that is auto-generated, then what you would do is send it to us. We can't caption it, but we can do is provide a transcript. We can either send you a transcript of it, or we can actually send you a timestamped caption. So that says like from 0 seconds to 5 seconds, here's what it says. From 5 seconds to 11 seconds, here's what it says. So basically get in contact with us and we will be happy to provide either captioning or a transcript for any video that is auto-generated, okay? Let's see. And I got asked, can we, oops, didn't want to hit that. Can we change the video to a different language? Not unless it's actually embedded into the video. So we, oops, don't have that capability. We can't just magically change it to Spanish, but if somebody provides Spanish as part of the video, like if it's something from a major network or something like that, it might be able to provide Spanish. Otherwise, what we'd have to do is send us the video and we could provide a Spanish translation, and that is available. It'd be a transcript in Spanish, okay? All right, so a bunch of questions on videos. Anything else before we go on? Okay, so I don't see any questions, so let's move on. So we have made a page, we have some files that we have. The next most common thing that people do is obviously an assignment. So the nice thing about assignment is if you know how to do a page, it's basically the exact same process with a little bit added on at the end. So again, we click on assignments, we look for that add button to create a new one. So let's create a new assignment. So let's say this is something where a common thing, you guys are putting videos out there, you guys are sending resources to them, and you say, I have no idea if the person's actually, if my students are actually looking at this or not, what can I do? Well, the easiest solution, unfortunately, is to simply make it an assignment and maybe make it a 10-point assignment so they have to do something at the end. So let's say that I sent them, our fictitious workplace safety in the barber shop handout or video. So again, I type in, hey, after you're done watching the video and reading the handout, please answer the following 3 questions. And then I can just type the questions right in. Number 1, should you ever stab a person with scissors? Sorry, I'm being so violent today. Question number 2, what are 3 mistakes that you can do? And number 3, what is the most important thing to remember regarding safety? I'm assuming that all of these are in the video, so if they're paying any attention, then they should know the answers to these very easily. Again, we're not going for a full quiz. We're really testing their knowledge. This is just the quick check-in that a lot of you have asked for about how can I make sure that they actually view it? And this is the best answer we have, is give them a very basic thing of questions, okay? So I've typed in the instructions. I can actually embed the video in here if I want. I can put a handout in here. If you notice, this rich context editor is the exact same. And thank you, person who reminded me that I said to use the comb for stabbing, not the scissors. That should be question 4. Okay. Down here, I have my things here. For example, if I don't want 100 points, I can make this just, and we probably don't for something as simple as this, just make it a basic 10 point. Okay. We're going to skip these assignments as if we're doing weighted grading. We're not going to mess with that. We assume your students want this as points. And then if we click on this, the normal setting when we start would actually be no submission. We're going to click on online, which means you want them to submit it in Canvas. And then we have 4 options here. And really, 99% of the time, we're going to use one of the top or bottom 2. So the top one is text entry, and that's what we're going to use for this. This is the simplest thing that you can do. You click on text entry, and when the student does this, there'll be a box on the top right corner that says submit assignment. They click on it, a box pops, and they just type in their answers to the 3 questions, okay? The other one that we can do is a file upload. And this is if you're doing something that is much longer. And so you want people to type up a document, create a presentation, something like that, and then upload it into Canvas. That would be the button you use. And by the way, you're welcome to use more than one. Say, hey, students, you can type it in or create a Word document and upload it. So you can make both of those available. A quick note on this restrict upload file types. For those of you like Elizabeth Sherman who teach English and you don't want to deal with 517 formats of essays that you do, you can actually type in and say, I will only accept a doc or a docx. In other words, an old version of Word or a new version of Word. So if somebody tries to send you something in Apple Pages or a Google Doc, it will reject it and say, nope, it needs to be a document. And the nice thing about that is pretty much every word processor out there gives the student the ability to change it into that. So if they're using Pages, they have the ability to save it as a document. If they're using Google Documents, they have the ability to save it as a document. So you can make sure that it gets to you in the format that you like. Okay? Again, we're going to skip this. We're not getting into peer reviews and things like this. We're going to assume you're assigning it to everybody in the class, but you can actually assign it to just first quarter students or just to a certain person as a makeup or something like that. And then we get down to the key boxes. Due date, easy enough, okay? So our first assignment we want due on the 3rd. And this available from is for those of you who say, I only want it appearing for a certain amount of time. So some instructors just leave it and students can turn it in late. But if you're someone, and there are instructors like this who say, nope, I'm trying to teach workplace behavior, so I'm going to have it appear Monday morning, and I'm going to have it go away on Friday. This prevents someone, for example, from doing it on Saturday because that link is going to vanish at exactly 11:59 on April 3rd. So if you have an issue with people turning in late stuff and then arguing with you when you reject it or you dock them 20% or something like that, that's how you do it. Okay, so let's just real quickly go back through here. We type in our text, and again, it's this rich content editor, so we can add links, add YouTube videos, add pictures, add files, add all of that. We give our points. We tell the students how they're going to submit it, in this case, text entry or file upload. We restricted what type of files we accept. We assigned it to everybody. We gave them a due date, and we said it's going to be available just this week and then vanish. And since I've done all that, I'm going to click on Save and Publish. Okay. And then once I've done that, if you're good and paranoid like I am, we want to look at it. So let me go back to home. Click on Student View. Now I'm in the student view and I can see it. So I click on Assignments. And Safety Assignment is right there. So I click on it, And as you see, assuming I could actually type, here's my instructions. It gives the students all the key information, when it's due, when it's available, how they're going to submit it. And so all that they have to do is now click on this submit assignment. They can scroll down here. If they're going to upload a Word document, they would just choose File and go find the Word document and upload it. And there's my cancel. If they're going to do text entry, they just click on text entry and then type their answer to the questions. Okay, so that's walking through how to do a very basic assignment. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions, so let's go back and talk about those. The person who asked me about polls, I'm not certain what you're referring to, so can you type a little more specific question in there, and we'll answer the first one. First one says, how do we place questions during a video to check if they're paying attention? Uh, you can do it, but you have to have software that does it. If you have Camtasia, then it will allow you to do that. You can actually embed a question at a specific point. So blah, 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 blah. It talks for a minute and a half. You can insert a question that says, something like, what are the 3 keys to workplace safety? And you can make it a multiple choice question for them to answer, and it will grade it. And then you go on to your, then you have it go on and you can do more questions that go along. My recommendation on that would be to send us a email, and we'll be happy to walk you through how to do that within Camtasia. Can you do it from someone else's video? No, you can't, because that's actually embedded into the video. You can do what we showed, which is ask them the questions. And honestly, if you just want to make sure they're paying attention, you can have the questions just here. They'll know it as they're doing it. And as they're viewing the video, they'll know what questions they should be paying attention to. If nothing else, it focuses them on key points as they're watching the video. Oh, I need to be paying attention to how to avoid accidents, what to do with scissors, how to bold format. They already know what the questions are going to be, so it focuses them as they listen to it. Okay? Sean gives a good thing. Be careful about mixing points and percentages. It can definitely make it harder to grade your class. You are correct. Okay. Any other questions on assignments? And I don't see any. So moving on. So we're creating our module. We have a page. We have an assignment. The next thing we're going to do is actually very nice, because it's almost no work. We click on discussions. And once again, we click on our add discussion button. And this should look really familiar, because it's almost the exact same as assignments. Okay, so this is our discussion. And again, we've got this rich content editor box, so we can just do a basic, what did you learn from the reading type question. We also have the ability to get a lot more creative. We can put a video in here. If everyone sees this upload media button, I really recommend this, because this allows you to upload something, like a video of yourself asking a question. You can also upload video as well that way, maybe have a short video that they watch. As previously, you could embed a YouTube video and then have people comment on that. Again, if it's something like, what did you learn from this video on, Aboriginal culture, to everything from what 3 mistakes did they make before going into the fire, into the burning house, or something like that. You've got a wide range of content you can do in here. Okay, let me take a quick moment and state, if you're just kind of struggling to get this going and you're going to do a basic discussion question, that's great and that's awesome. And I want to encourage you to do that. And what did you learn from the reading is a great and fantastic question. Do that. Don't feel bad about it. Okay. For those of you who already have that down, let me encourage you to go a step farther on that and do stuff, especially as your students are trying to create this community, and give them the opportunity to share a little bit about what's going on in their life. So maybe have someone say, what's something that happened this week, and give them the ability with this upload media button to upload, excuse me, give them the ability to upload a picture or upload a video file If you're talking about safety, maybe have them walk around the house or walk around their neighborhood or go out on a walk in their city or something like that. But maybe give them a chance to share a little bit of what's going on over the next weeks and months. And inside a discussion board is a great place to do that. So maybe if you're talking, I know, for example, the nursing department talks a lot in the beginning about all the stress that's there and working on your mental health and make sure you're taking care of yourself. So that might be a great question for week 1 or week 2. Have someone demonstrate something they did that brought them happiness this week, or a technique they have for relieving stress or something like that. So again, if we're new to Canvas, put that basic question in there. That's great and awesome. We're glad you're doing that. For those of you who have that mastered, I really want to challenge you to use that discussion board as a way to build community. You can put multimedia content inside this and your students can do it. You can even have students respond to each other with multimedia. So that's pictures, that's audio recordings, that's videos, that's links to content. So there's different stuff that they can post rather than just, type, and then other people type in me too and I agree and stuff like that. So that's the challenge to you guys. Really use this to build a sense of community with your students. Okay, so I type in my discussion prompt. There we go. We'll assume that that was brilliant and awesome. Okay, and then it's basically the same as an assignment, except we have these options right here. Okay, so the first one is allow threaded replies. In most cases, you're going to want that. That simply means you're going to allow people to reply to you and then reply to each other. So if you've ever seen a discussion board on the internet, you're very familiar with that. Tim says this, and then Colin responds, and then Tim responds to Colin, and then Joe chimes in, and then Jeff chimes in. And the nice thing about threaded is it actually puts them underneath each other in order rather than just putting everything in chronological order. So when you see this thing where I responded here and Colin responded the next day, it actually puts it right there underneath mine so people can understand what people are saying. Okay, so that I definitely like. I always check this unless there's a really good reason. Users must post before seeing replies. That means that when your student comes onto this page, everybody else's post is hidden. I think that's really important for an obvious reason. I don't have the ability to go read everybody else's response and then base mine off of that. I'm looking at a blank page that I have to fill in and do it from my own reading, from my own knowledge, okay? I cannot stress enough, if you want students to post, you better click that graded button, okay? If you don't grade it, you're gonna get half the class at best responding to it, and honestly, you might get 2. Okay, so click on graded, and then just again, choose your points possible, like 10 points. For those who ask about allowing liking, it means that someone can say, hey, that's a cool answer. Okay, so I can limit just to people who are grading. I would let students say, I like that answer, so I would uncheck that. And if I want, I can even have it sorted. So the more likes you get, the higher up your answer and responses go. Okay, but that's a few ways of doing that. Let's see, we've got some questions. Yep, Peter's giving some great advice. In discussions, please try and stay away from yes, no answers. That's right, because if you give something that's yes, no, you will in fact get an answer that says yes, and then I agree. So the more you can ask them who and what and where and why, get them to elaborate. A real easy thing to do is if it's 10 points, say, you will not get credit unless it's at least 5 sentences long or a paragraph or 3 sentences. Great question also, is there a way to set up a minimum word count? No, there isn't. So I would just go by sentences or paragraphs. So say, hey, this needs to be at least 3 complete sentences long or 5 sentences long, or if you're looking for longer than that, it needs to be at least 3 paragraphs long. That's enough to at least get them close to what you're looking for. We can't do that. Now you do have a count down here, but you can't set it up that it has to be 57 words or something like that. Okay. So I think this looks the same as we saw. We've got our assigned to, our due, and our available from. So let's give it a due date. We'll make this one due Friday as well. Okay. So we have now done a discussion. We've done an assignment. We've done a page. Any questions? Okay, and is there a back button if you make a mistake? Uh, Not really. So if you're typing, that means a lot of different things, Marcy. If you're talking about you make a mistake and accidentally erase something, you can try Control-Click Undo. If you're going to type something that's long and elaborate, I would give a very strong recommendation both to you and your students to create it in Word and then copy and paste it. And Taina says Control Z. Yes, that would also be the undo. So that's your best bet. But if it's completely gone, it can be completely gone. So that's why if you're typing something out, I'd use Word, copy and paste it, because Word has much, much more robust undo than Canvas does. Okay, good question, Marcy. All right, then the last thing in our module, and we're going to spend just a quick second on this because it's a full lesson in and of itself, but we're just going to show you guys quizzes. So I'm going to click on quizzes. Oops, click twice. Click on quizzes, and again, here's our add quiz button. You'll get this new pop-up. For now, just click on classic quizzes because that's what most people are used to. Canvas is going to a new quiz engine. It's more robust, but they're not going to go to it. They're going to it now, but they're not going to eliminate classic quizzes until, I believe, 2022. So you have plenty of time to stick with this. All right, so this looks familiar again. We have our quiz name. We type our content in here just like we did before. We have 4 types of quizzes. We have a practice quiz, so that means it's not graded. So for those of you who want to give your students a practice quiz to prepare for a quiz, you have that. You have graded quiz. You have graded survey. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean that you give them 10 points if they say that you're awesome, and 0 points if they hate you. That simply means that they get 10 points for completing the survey. Okay, and then you have ungraded survey, which means it's completely anonymous and you won't know if they did it or not. Okay, so we have graded quiz. We have a few options here. Almost all of these, by the way, have to do with academic integrity, which unfortunately, a lot of these aren't going to work if your students are taking a test in Olympia or Enumclaw, but a few will. So let's go over these real quick. You have shuffle answers. That works great if students are in the same room, because what that does is I get A, B, C, D, and someone else gets B, C, A, D as the answer. So it's harder to peek over someone's shoulder and cheat and look at it. Okay, you do have a time limit. Honestly, this is one of the best academic integrity tools there are. If they're going to use Google and if they're going to do it, fine. But what I would do in that situation is give them a 50 question quiz and give them 20 minutes to do it. If they know their stuff, they can answer it. If they're having to Google every single question, they're going to get 10 questions done in that time limit. So time limit is a great way to kind of unofficially enforce academic integrity, because you just don't have time to read the entire textbook or to Google stuff while they're taking the test. Another good thing is to just make questions that they can't Google. So if you say, what is the definition of this word? They can Google that very easily. If you say, name 3 places you would use a widget, they can't Google that nearly as easily. Okay? So that's one academic integrity thing. You can allow multiple attempts. So if you want to give everybody 3 cracks at your quiz, I click this. I choose, am I going to give them their highest score, their last score, or an average of the 3 scores? And how many attempts am I going to give them? I'm going to give them 3. By the way, if I don't click this, they get unlimited attempts. Okay? Another academic integrity thing, do I want to let students see their quiz responses and see the correct answers? So I might say, I will let them see the questions that they missed, but not give them the correct answers. But you, again, can kind of choose what you want them to see. Okay? This next button, show one question at a time. This is exactly what it sounds like. Do you want, you've got a 50 question quiz, that's probably going to terrify your students if it's 50 questions long and they scroll up and down and see 50 or, God forbid, 200 questions. So what you can do is click on show one question at a time, let them know in advance it's 200 questions, but this way they only see question 1 and then question 2, and then question 3. And this button again says exactly what you think. We've all taken a quiz where question 23 gave us the answer to question 1. Oh, now that's what that is. And we go back. So you can actually lock the question. So once I answer question 1 and move on to question 2, I can't go back and answer question 1. Okay? You can't do filter IP addresses because people are all over the place. But the other thing you can do is require an access code. This is a great tool that does not work, unfortunately, when people are not here. And see, I get the exact same hassles you guys get when you teach. My daughter's trying to have me approve her app purchase in the middle of the session. Yay! Okay, so, but what you can do with the access code is once you guys are back face to face, you can say to keep people from, for example, doing it from home or something like that at 8 o'clock when it's due, you have them come in, you say your access code is widget. They have to type in widget in order to take the test. So that provides you a little bit of, again, added security and added integrity. Okay, and then this stuff down here again is the exact same thing that we've seen before. Who are we assigning it to? When's our due date? So we've now set up the basics of the quiz. Keep in mind we haven't added any questions yet, but that's the basics of the quiz. So I have a couple of questions. Is there a tutorial for students? Half and half. We're happy to work with you. Kind of send us what it is that you're looking at, and what we can do is either you can find or we can find Canvas guides if you're doing something that seems a little complicated. A lot of times just typing something in the directions is good enough, like view this video and then click on the submit button to answer the questions. But if you're running into problems or you want some additional documentation, we can certainly get that to you. Just shoot us an email, okay? And Bert has a question. Can you import a quiz from my files? Probably not, unless it's a very specific type of quiz. So if it's something like a Word document, contact us. We have software that allows us to do it, but it has to be very specially formatted. So we'd have to do this. We also, there's stuff, if it was in a different format, like if it's something you've imported from a different class, if you've imported from something like Blackboard, we can also import it that way. If you have stuff that was given to you by a textbook publisher, we can import that. So sorry, that was kind of a long and not very good answer, but I guess if you want a short answer, it would be, it depends, okay? But short of that, contact us. Some stuff we can, some stuff we can't. You might have to do it from scratch. What I would really recommend at that point in time is contact your dean. We do have people that are working from home, and so it's quite possible if you've got 10 questions that are ready to go, talk to your dean, and maybe those questions can be given to someone and they can type those in, especially if you're like me and you type 8 words a minute and you're a 2-finger typer guy, then talk to your dean and see if there's any way to assign a student worker or an admin to get your stuff into Canvas. Okay? Patty, do they see it immediately? If you decide to, back up here, we said let students see their quiz responses. They will see that immediately if you check it. And you can say, let the students see their correct answers. And you can even choose a time if you only want them to have like 15 minutes. Let's say your test was from 8 to 9. You could go in and say they can see their correct answers from 9 to 9:15. Okay? All right, and Sean is saying, I assume you found the Canvas guides. Yes, there are Canvas guides that walk you through everything. I would also say a great hint is to just Google stuff. Canvas is huge. It passed Blackboard a couple of years ago as the biggest learning management system out there. So Googling stuff actually works quite well in this case. You can find a video or handout for how to do something and then point that to your students or download it and import it into your class. Okay. Patty, sorry, I meant to say, do we see them right away? Your students will see it and you will see it. So you will see their results instantly with one condition, and we'll talk about that in a second as soon as we go to questions. So let's go into questions. I'm just going to add one question. We'll do one, and then this will also answer Patty's question. So I go to questions. If I was doing 10, I would just do the same step 10 times. So I click on add a new question, and the question type is multiple choice. I'm going to select multiple choice because that is obviously by far the most common type of question. Okay, so we say, whatever we're talking about, what are some things, or what is something that you should never leave in a barber shop? Okay, and please don't answer that, as everyone answers jokes on the side. Okay, but we have a multiple choice question, and they choose the right one. So to answer Patty's question, anything that is objective, meaning that Canvas can figure out what the correct answer is, it will grade it immediately. So multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, matching, numerical answer, all of those types of questions, it will immediately grade it. If you give them something like an essay question, okay, what is the meaning of life? You have 500 words. Obviously, Canvas can't grade that. So what Canvas will do is say, hey, Patty, Tim took your test. He got 10 out of 10 on the objective part, the multiple choice, and we're waiting for you to grade his essay. Then once you grade my essay and give me 5 points out of 10, for example, it will then immediately enter 15 out of 20 into the grade book, okay? So Patty, did that answer your question? Good. Okay, sorry that took so long, but there was multiple parts to it. So they will see it instantly if it's a type of question that Canvas can grade for them. All right. I've got a quiz video that I'll be happy to email or post so that you guys can actually walk through all the different types so that you understand what's a fill in the multiple blank or what's a numerical answer and all that. But since we don't want to spend 2 hours on this one task, we'll stop and just do one multiple choice. So we choose our question type. We can choose points. Most people choose 1 point per, but no reason we can't make it 2 points or 5 points or anything like that. And then we type in our question. What is, see, now you know why I don't ever type on camera. What is your favorite color? And then we type our answers in. Let's say red, black, and blue. Okay. Right now, you'll notice red has a green arrow in the word correct to make it as obvious as possible. My favorite color is actually black, so I can type them in any order. All that I do is when I'm done, I click next to the black. So again, here's red, here's black. As long as that's green, Canvas now knows that black is the correct answer to the quiz. Okay, now what happens if I don't have 4 answers? Well, please delete this. As you'll notice, there's an empty box here. This is going to confuse your students because what will happen is it's going to have an empty dot that's going to confuse your students. So I'm just going to click on delete. And now I have 3 answers and 3 dots instead of that 4th dot. If I want to add an answer, like I want to add a 4th one or even a 5th or 6th one, I just click on add another answer and type in gray. Okay, when I'm done, by the way, don't go down here to click on save, click on update question. And that saves my question. And now you see my question is now saved. If I was doing more, I would then go to new question and keep adding my questions. When I'm done with my test, I click save. Okay. Whew. Yes, that was a fly through. My apologies, but that's walking you through all the bases of Canvas, other than we have one task to do, and that's put all this stuff into one module. But let's pause, ask questions, make comments, give best practices. I see one question I haven't, and that's Nasser asked, can we time each question? No, you can't. You can give a general time. You cannot have one question they get 5 minutes for. Okay. And I don't see, I think we answered every other question. Does the new quiz format work? Yes, it does, but it can be a little bit buggy. That's why we're not recommending that. But the nice thing about it is it has a lot of great features. To be honest, I haven't used it for 6 months, so I'd be happy to go in and look at it again and see if it works a little bit better. The problem we had was that the interface really confused people. People got frustrated with it because they tried to change things and they couldn't. What's nice about the new quiz is it has a lot of good features. For example, it has what's called the hotspot question. And that is where you give them a diagram and you can say something like, please click on the sternum. And then you have a picture of a skeleton. You put a box around the sternum, and as long as someone clicks inside that box, they get a point. Or, click on Texas, or where is the flux capacitor located? So you've got different things like that. It's got the ability to print, which tests don't have, which is very nice. It's got a very beefed up accessibility and accommodations function. So there's a lot that's nice in it. So if you want, let's talk about that sometime later and see if that's something you want to transition to, if any of those features sound like something that you want. Okay, couple of more questions. Can I import quizzes that I already have? Yes, it's actually pretty simple. If you want, give us a call or shoot us an email. We'll walk you through it. But basically, you go into the import content like you do to import a whole class, and you just click on select content, and then you select that quiz and import just that one quiz into there, okay? So you can do that with any content in the class. If you have a page, you have a quiz, you have a handout that you want, you can move stuff from one course to another. Just go into your import, and instead of saying all content, choose select content. And that will allow you to do that. Sean asked about test banks. Yes, test banks are awesome. We're going to table that. We're just have it again. We have an hour and a half, but be aware. Contact us if you want test banks. Test banks are great. The reason Sean's asking about it is that allows you to put a list of, let's say, 100 questions inside Canvas, and then create a quiz that says, pick 10 random questions out of there or 20 random questions out of there. That way, A, every student gets a different quiz, and B, if a student retakes a quiz, they get a completely different quiz. So that's a great function. It's also great for final exams. I can create a final exam and say, give me 10 questions from the Chapter 1 test bank, give me 10 questions from the Chapter 2 quiz bank, and so on. So it walks through that. So please email us or contact us. I know you're hearing that a lot, but let us know if you want us to walk you through that. We might be able to get to that tomorrow, but if not, we'll walk you through it. It's a really handy feature for those who are trying to get past the basics. For example, the ability to create a completely customized quiz and final exam. Okay. Peter's reminding you, yes, if you copy stuff from one course to another, the default setting almost always will be unpublished. So please go in and publish it, whether that's a quiz, a page, an assignment, anything like that. And someone says surveys are done in quizzes. No, they aren't. Your survey, if you created one, would be done in quizzes. So if you wanted to ask, how did this chapter go? Or you want to do your own, it would go through that. The ones that you talk about, the student input forms at the end of the quarter, those are actually done through a third-party application that's embedded in Canvas called Evaluation Kit. Okay, but you can create your own survey in Canvas. It'd be the exact same process as this, and instead of calling it a Canvas quiz, you would call it an ungraded or a graded survey. Okay, if we post video content in Canvas, whose property is it? Great question. That depends where it comes from. And bluntly, it depends who paid for it. So the basic rule of ownership, and this is at pretty much every college in the United States, is if Bates is paying you, whether it's during your hourly wages, whether it's providing you with a camera, whether it's EPU to create a video or to create any content, then that is Bates content because we've paid for it. So that's whose property it would be. If it's something that you create completely and totally outside of Bates on your own time and then document it, then that should be yours. What I would honestly say, if you're really worried about that, and I understand there are people who are very worried about content and intellectual property and all of that sort of stuff, I would talk to your dean, or more accurately, probably it'll end up being the VPI, and say, hey, I have this video content that I've created on my own and I want to bring it in, but I want to make sure that I maintain my ownership of it and have that content with it, or have that discussion with them. It's a really common discussion that people have, because that's a big concern that people have is, well, what happens if I get let go from Bates? You know, obviously we hope that would never happen, but what happens if I get let go from Bates? Do I get to take my stuff with you? And I will not answer that question from a legal standpoint. What I will tell you that in almost every case is unless there's a strong reason, like for example, you're going to Clover Park and directly competing with us, the basic default setting is we keep the rights to it and you keep the rights to it. So you can go somewhere else and take your Canvas material and teach it with it. But on the same hand, we paid you for that content so we can continue teaching the course using that content. Okay? Also asking about a YouTube channel. That depends whether you embed the YouTube channel in the course. If it's a private thing that we don't know exists, then we obviously would have no claim to it. But again, on all these things, these are not weird questions. They're super common questions. Honestly, I wish we had a policy on it. Some colleges do and some colleges don't. A lot of colleges don't like putting the exact words down because that can cause issues. But please talk to your dean and please talk to the VPI to make sure that you're happy with the resolution in that case. All right, I got texted a question. Yes, Marge wanted to chime in and say she's had an issue with people copying and pasting stuff from a test and concerned about academic integrity. And the basic thing is if they're at home, I wish I had a better answer than you don't have academic integrity, because the fact is I can pull out my camera, take a picture of the screen, and then send that picture out to people. Unless we're going to pay for proctoring, and that's really expensive, but if we want that, you can talk to your dean and VPI about that. Unless we're paying for proctoring, students have the ability to do that. So that's why we want to say the more that you can make your test, for lack of a better term, uncheatable, if you can make it more of an essay question, if you can make it where they're doing projects, that helps a lot with the academic integrity on that. To Marge's point, I realize stuff like OTA and nursing has certification they have to deal with, and that makes that impossible. But do be aware of that this is going out there and your students do have the ability to copy it. Okay? Last question before we go on to a last thing. Do we need to worry about YouTube links regarding copyrights? Absolutely not, as long as you are embedding the link. That's just like a recommendation. So when that person clicks on the link, they're getting credit for clicking on it. They're getting credit if there's, for example, advertising revenue. If they're getting clicks, any sort of revenue generated, that's all happening. So if you embed the video, you're perfectly safe on that. Now I have to say with one caveat, assuming the video is legal. Okay, so if somebody has taken, I'm trying to think of a movie that's coming out right now, Harley Quinn, that's out in theaters right now, and they put that on YouTube and you decided to put that in YouTube, that's obviously an illegal video. You're not protected at that point in time. But assuming that it's somebody else's content, you absolutely can put that in, so long as, again, you're not trying to rip the video, rip the content and put it in, you're just posting the link in. Okay. In fact, if anything, the person who owns the link should be happy because you just given them 30 clicks. You've generated revenue and credit for them. Okay. Have another good question here. If I create something and then decide, I want to change my mind, I want to change it from, for example, a page to an assignment or an assignment to a quiz. Unfortunately, there isn't an ability to do that. You can make your life easier by maybe opening it up and copying and pasting it, but you do have to create a separate. I wish it could. That'd be a great feature to just go in and say, make this page into an assignment and click on it. But unfortunately, we don't have that capability. So you can create a quiz and then copy and paste stuff into it, or create an assignment and copy and paste into it. And that's at least going to cut your workload by 75, 80%. But yeah, you do have to create a brand new quiz or a brand new assignment if you want to change its functionality. Okay? So let's get to our last task of the day. We go to modules. And we've already created this stuff. So now all we need to do is put it in a module. So we go to week 2 and we click on add. And I believe the first thing we had was a page, which was called workplace safety. So we click on it and add it. And then we're going to go to our assignment, which was called safety assignment. And we add that. And then we go to our discussion board, which is called practice. Add that. And then we go to our one question quiz. And there we go. I mean, you can't get much easier than that. We already did the hard work. We created the stuff. So now we're just simply bringing it into an organized place where my students can find it easily and realize this is the stuff that you need to be doing in week 2. It just makes it much easier for them to see it rather than having to go and try and find quiz number 1 in amongst a bunch of quizzes. Okay. And as you'll notice, I haven't published it yet. I'm going to click on publish and everything is published. So my students can now find this if they click on modules, and all of my assignments are there and they're all published. If I want to unpublish something, like if, for example, I want them to do the work and make sure they do that before the quiz, I can just unpublish that and then publish it when I'm ready to go. All right, so that walks us through everything as far as the basic functions of Canvas and creating a module. So we learned how to create pages, upload files, create assignments, quizzes, put it all into a module. We also hopefully learned a bit about our settings and how to kind of make our class run well. I don't know if everybody's going to weep openly that we finished 4 minutes early, but are there any questions before I say goodbye and have a great day? All right, technically that's not a question, Patty, but you're quite welcome. All right, so thank you everybody for a good class. If by any chance you came in late, I heard a few people enter late, please type something in the chat like I'm here or hello or welcome so that we know you're here. Other than that, Colin and I, we're working hard. We haven't drowned yet. We're still both above water. So shoot us some emails. I'll be honest, it might take us a while to get back to you, but it's going to be something that's hours or maybe a day or two, not 6 weeks to get back to you and say, hey, how do I do this thing that you talked about? We'll also post videos, okay? Other than that, thank you everybody. Have a great day and hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow.